Welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. Please know I get it. The gut-wrenching, burning, highly triggered desire to make a narcissist pay for what they've done to us. And there are so many things that narcissists do that are totally out of bounds. They lie about so much that you don't even know what is up or down. They betray you with twisted facts and their own fabricated versions of things to keep people in our lives, jeopardizing these relationships horribly, such as those with family and friends, work colleagues and bosses, meaning that we could forever lose these people who we were previously so close to. And heck, these people also regularly stoop so low to betray us to our own flesh and blood, turning our children against us. And they will also lie to try to get us taken down by authorities, potentially destroying our incomes, mental functioning, and any future ability to generate our own lives. The narcissist's abuse may have destroyed not just our connections and our welfare, but also our health. And we may now be left with so many chronic health conditions that it takes all that we can do to just survive our everyday existence, let alone have a peaceful, happy, and successful life. And of course, I think the greatest devastation of all that we all suffer at the hands of narcissists is this. We've been hoodwinked into believing that someone loved us, knowing that they didn't mean their words, that they were simply telling us what we wanted to hear, all to fulfill the agenda of bleeding us dry, taking our resources, energy, time, money, souls, sexuality, and our best years for their selfish purposes of maintaining their shallow egos. How do we reconcile that when we've had our entire beings invested in these people? How on earth could we not want to make the narcissist pay? Surely some sort of retribution would help us heal. I wish it could, and I promise you with all of my heart, if I believed that this was the way to go, and if we could make it possible, that I'd be all for it. Because me helping you get the relief, healing, release, and thriving that myself and so many other people in this community have accomplished is my most passionate mission in life. And that's why I'm going to tell you the only truths I know about how to achieve that. Okay, so let me share this with you, rewinding back into thinking about my life back then. I'd lost 2 properties that had been mine. My entire reputation was smeared. Everywhere I looked in a business sense, I was being turned against, even by my own accountant. My son detested me, my family had wiped their hands of me, my friends had run for the hills. Everybody thought that I was the problem. Nobody believed me about him. And to add insult to injury, my health became so broken and chronic. I was told I would never recover or function as normal, meaning that I had no seeming way to rebuild my shattered life. Of course I wanted him to pay. Naturally, I fantasized about bringing this man down who destroyed my life, making him feel and experience at least some of the devastation I had. Yet instead, he was living in my home that he now owned, driving new cars that he'd bought, dating women 20 years younger than himself, and traveling wherever and whenever he wanted. In stark contrast, I couldn't eat, sleep, or function. I couldn't even walk out of my front door without having a total meltdown. I tried to make him pay. Anyone who would listen to me, I told him what he'd done. I told the police what he'd done. I phoned abuse services about what he'd done. And everybody turned their back on me. The harder I tried, the more people turned against me, and the more devastated, isolated, and sicker I became. And the more bullets I handed him to load up in his gun to shoot me with, see, look at her, she's the one who's abusive, lying and sick. And so it appeared, looking from the outside in, because the more devastated I became, the more desperate and angry and victimized my pleas were, and the more manic and psychotic I appeared. Please know I can't tell you how many people have told me this identical story. In fact, this is the narcissistic abuse story, point blank, the contemporary one. The victim gets the raw deal. People don't believe him or her. The narcissist stays smug and is believed by family, friends, schools, authorities, churches, the community in general, the court, you name it. And the harder the victim tries to be heard and have people help them, the worse it gets. It becomes so bad in many cases that the victim ends up losing everything. All finances, security, property and businesses, connections, everything and everyone dear to their heart, as well as their ability to work and provide for themselves. It's beyond heartbreaking to see how many people who've been narcissistically abused end up in this position. I've met so many of these people over the years. Abuse forums that are not orientated around the Thrive a Way to Heal are filled with people who've suffered this plight. You too may be feeling like you're suffering this or heading for this right now. And I know, just like many of these people, you would have tried to stand up. You would have attempted to make the narcissist accountable like I did too. You may have tried to bring the narcissist undone and brought to justice. You may have even tried to do something really nasty back to the narcissist to try to get even with him or her. Please know most people at the very least have done this, snapped and lashed out wanting to hurt this person and get even with them. And generally, we don't have the ability to operate in conscienceless ways like the narcissist does, because to them the end justifies any means. But when we've been damaged and soul raped enough, we may be horrified at what we've become, an angry, vengeful person lashing out, not just at the narcissist, but also inadvertently to, at times, other people who we love. We may behave in ways that horrify us when we look at the person we're becoming in the mirror. If that's you, please forgive yourself. When we're continually damaged by sick people, of course we're going to get sick. For those of you who may be plotting how to get even and take revenge on a narcissist, I highly suggest not to. I can't tell you how many people who did try to beat the narcissist at their own game by one-upping them in the nasty pathological or game-playing stakes came off shockingly. Because once you enter the dragon's lair with a narcissist on their own terms, on their home turf, they can roast you alive. Any act of unscrupulous behaviour that you try to do that the narcissist can track back to you and pin on you will be showcased to all and sundry with full supporting evidence to crucify you, point blank. You may feel that this is totally unfair. After all, narcissists do that stuff every day as their normal operation mode. Yes, they do, and they get away with it. Why is life so unfair? If you look at it like that, from the human and not the quantum level, absolutely life sucks in regard to narcissistic abuse. And you can try to beat this by one-upping the narcissist as much as you like, but I honestly can't tell you one case of knowing where it actually did pay off. And I know scores of cases where it didn't. So what are we left with? It may all seem hopeless, evil, and disastrous. Like these people feed of us, leave us in a pile of rubble at every level of ourselves in life, skip off into the sunset with all the goodies, leaving us with no way to rebuild our life or to even get even with them. Which of course, as human beings, we all want to do. We all want to take back our power and get justice for what they did to us. Okay, so we're going to reset. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a couple of deep breaths together with me. And we're going to shake this out. We're just going to shake this energy out because we're going to do a shift. Okay, we're going to shift our focus right now because we're about to do a switch into going quantum together. And so many people ask all the time, going quantum, what does that mean, Mel? It means this: getting to the raw truth of things and then working with that truth so that the truth can set us free. And one of the greatest truths of the universe and everything in it is this: everything is in perfect and divine order, no matter how it seems. And life source God does not get it wrong. Therefore, life is happening for you and not to you. And as a thriver, this I now know. The narcissist coming into my life, sending me through the grand adventure of believing I'd met my soulmate, then losing everything: love, all my security, connections, health, and almost my life was actually happening for me. Why? Because the entire shebang of what had happened granted me the incredible opportunity to release my internal trauma. And when I did this, I discovered so much of what was embedded in my unconscious had been there already, long before he arrived in my life, from past life traumas of persecution, desecration, destruction, rape, annihilation, and atrocities of abuse. From my family epigenetic history of terror, fear, pain, sexual abuse, and poverty. From my childhood traumas of feeling invalidated, controlled, and never being good enough. All of which was wedged inside me, not allowing me to fully be my authentic true self, generating life, love, and joy at the levels that were my birthright to live. The truth was, I would never be free of these traumas, enjoying a thriver life like I do now, unless somebody had come into my life and smashed up to the surface all of these unconscious wounds, and he, the narcissist, absolutely triggered all of them, that I'd been able to exist with and get through life with until now. Sure, I'd been able to operate in life before him, despite personally disappointing and painful intimate relationships, lots of distrust regarding humankind, many superficial relationships and very few deep ones, fractured relationships with family members, reoccurring anxiety and depression, having to constantly do self-development to try to feel normal, occasional binge drinking way to excess, and a 50 cigarette a day addiction. But hey, I was doing fine. And I really believed I was before him, because this was my normal before narcissistic abuse. I was used to it. I didn't know any different. And it wasn't until after narcissistic abuse and letting go of my trauma and starting to become my true authentic self, which we all organically are without our trauma, that I realized just how ghastly and abnormal my previous state of life was. It might have been my normal, but in no way was it natural. And that's what we all do when we plod along trying to survive ourselves, thinking life is just like that. When we have unattended to trauma inside us, and when we're trying to self-medicate to control the ongoing anxiety and depression that our trapped internal traumas constantly generate. We just think life feels like that. But it isn't until we free ourselves of those traumas wedged inside that we realize how living like that is so hard and painful. So many people, as I once did too, have screamed from the rooftop, "My life was so wonderful before the narcissist." I promise you, when you get to the other side of this and you start living the up-leveled experience of releasing more and more trauma from your inner being and allowing life source and source that flourishes and nourishes you beyond measure to start flowing through you, you will look back at your life and the comparison from now to then will be like you're now viewing life through the latest technology, quantum.tv, instead of being on a basic flat screen. There is no comparison. It's such a massive one. Now, I can almost hear those of you who were abused by narcissistic parents saying, there was no life before narcissistic abuse for me anyway. What are you talking about, Mel? I was born into it. And I guess it all depends with what you believe. And I believe that having that belief that there's only this life would not grant us much purpose or evolutionary reason as to why we would be born into a narcissistic family. My belief is that the soul is eternal, and this is certainly not the first time that we've done a physical life as this soul. And I also believe from past lives, we're continuing on with the aspects of ourselves and humanity that we've not healed yet. And if we're carrying trauma from past lives and epigenetically from our ancestors, which is scientifically proven now, as well as from the collective of humanity itself, that we end up being born smack bang into the identical replay of those traumas again. It's quantum law, so within, so without. Now, what I'm about to say may blow your mind. I believe at a soul level we chose it. And we did have a choice. We didn't have to choose it. And before you jump up and down and scream out, are you saying I deserved it? That I asked for it? No, that's not what I'm saying any more than I'm saying that I asked consciously to be born into the family I was born into, or to be with a man who nearly destroyed my life and killed me. What I am saying is that I chose at the soul level, which is a much higher and bigger picture perspective than what my human personality operates at. I'm saying that I chose to come here again and experience what I did in order to have the opportunity this time to liberate my personal self, as well as assist the collective to be freed from trauma, meaning to be freed from all that is not source, God, love. And what better reason would there be than to choose to go through this? I don't believe there is any better reason than that. Why would I not want to be a part of that divine mission at soul level? And when I woke up from my slumber and realized and actualized that at the conscious level, the following is what I did. I lovingly self-partnered, meeting every part of me that I'd spent a life career in self-avoiding, and instead finally took 100% responsibility to free myself from all of the traumas that were in my being, no matter how they got there. And I no longer looked outside myself, blaming the narcissist, my family, and every other blighter who'd come into my life and done the wrong thing by me. I could have said another word, but I'm not going to swear. Instead, I realized every single one of those people, without exception, had been an aid in my life, an angel in disguise sent to me posing as an abuser. And mind you can write that word in your comments. I'm just not going to do it because I'm a public person. Okay. They had come in posing to be an abuser, to trigger my unhealed parts so that finally I could turn inside and go to them and release myself from them. As a result of choosing to align with this quantum truth, I was anointed with all of the love, joy, success, and glory of living as I was always intended to. It's experiencing heaven on earth as my everyday reality. That's exactly what thriving is. This so-called phenomenon of life that I experience now is not some crazy quantum feeling and understanding that only random or special people get to. What no longer surprises me at all is so many thrivers in this community without me even explaining to them the beauty of their soul choices and the incredible evolution opportunities of narcissistic abuse, like I'm talking to you about them today. And truly in today's show, I don't think I've ever been as candid and straightforward about the meaning of life as I have today. So these thrivers, they get it. And so far, thousands of different people from all over the world have reported the same soul and universal wisdom. They come to me and our community explaining all that I've explained to you today, organically, without any conscious learning of it at all. Why? Because this truth that we're talking about today, it's already coded into all of us at a cellular DNA level so that we can come home to it. It's just that we've had so much trauma corrupting our inner programs, holding us separated from being healthy within ourselves and life. And when we start releasing trauma, we start returning to well-being organically, which is the repairing of all that we've lost, our resources, security, finances, health, connections, sanity, happiness, ability to trust and love. In fact, when we start experiencing all that it is to be human at levels that far surpass anything that we've previously known, as a constant, ever-growing state. And if we're lucky enough to awaken and align with this truth before we lose everything, we certainly don't have to. Thrivers that awaken early, which was different from me, it took me a long time, even defeat narcissists in court. They get awarded property and custody. And not because they want to get even, that's not the motivation. Rather, it's because they've been releasing the trauma that the narcissist represents, meaning that the narcissist can no longer operate in their life. This I know with every fibre of my being. Life and our souls in concert are ingenious with one purpose to fulfill. Release who we are not to become who we are for ourselves and for the healing of the entire collective. So how does this grand plan take place in the fastest and most powerful way that it can? The answer? Being stricken down with our traumas to the level where we can no longer operate with them. When we are forced to let them go if we're going to move forward at all. So, do you think wanting to make the narcissist pay achieves what we've talked about today? No. It makes everything worse because our soul and life keeps screaming, wrong town, you haven't got it yet. If it was the right way to go, it would work. It would make us feel better and we would heal. And when we start awakening from unconsciousness into consciousness, we have the realization that the states of our inner and outer worlds is always showing us if we are or aren't on track. So we can really investigate that. We can say to ourselves, how is wanting and trying to get even, how is that feeling emotionally in my body? How has that been turning out in my life for me? And the truth is, the answer will be pretty darn crappy. I know, because I used to be there too. Now, I hope you realize, as a result of this conversation today, the absolute truth of all of this. This is happening for you and not to you. And if you work with the grand design and purpose of why this happened, you too will be released and anointed to live the life you were born to live. And then all you will ever think when you get there regarding your narcissistic abuse experience is exactly what I think. Thank God that happened. You could not give me $1 billion to go back to the life I had before narcissistic abuse. It just wouldn't be worth it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to learn more about how to get to and actualize the quantum truths that I talked about today to set yourself truly free from narcissistic abuse into the life that you were born to live, you can sign up to my free 16-day recovery course, which includes an invitation to a profound healing workshop with me, a set of ebooks, and so much more. So to access these, just click the link at the top right of this video. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you like and subscribe so you get notified as soon as each new video is released. And please, I would love you to scroll down and comment about this episode. And the burning question for today is this: how did you feel about wanting to get even before watching this episode? And how do you feel about it now? Okay, so scroll down and answer that question. I'd love you to, and I'll respond. All right, so until next time, keep smiling, keep healing, and keep thriving, because there's nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.